Welcome back. So today we're going to be discussing the new addition to the German tech tree, the Tiger H1, and how it compares with the existing options already in the German tech tree. So I ran them side by side. I realized that not everybody can do that. I have more German tank crews because I played before the merge, and so I'm able to run a Tiger E, a Tiger H1, and a Panther G all side by side. I'm pretty sure that normally people can't do that though. So the value of the Tiger H1 probably goes down just by that nature alone. But let's look at the stats on it, then we'll talk about what I think about it and I guess some of the tactics and whatnot with it. So right now, the Tiger E is a Tier 5 BR5 vehicle located right after the AGD Panzer IV and right before the Tiger 2P. So the Tiger H1 then is a Tier 5 BR4 vehicle folded behind the Tiger E, so it's not a required vehicle to research. So for the context of this video, I played both of these vehicles unupgraded. I do have the Battle Pass Tiger E. I just didn't play it for this video because I didn't think it would be fair to compare a fully upgraded vehicle to a non-fully upgraded vehicle. And I did not want to spend the silver to fully upgrade a Tiger H1. So, going through its stats, we're starting with the Tiger E. You have a crew of 5, you have smoke grenades, you have an 88 mil cannon, I'm pretty sure it's APC, BC, and HE. You have 2 MG34 machine guns, you have a max speed of 44.87 kilometers an hour. Your armor on the hull is 102, 82, 82, 26 for front, side, back, and bottom. And then your turret armor is 100, 82, 82, and 80. Your engine power is 595 horsepower at 3000 RPM with a weight of 57.3 tons. Now, if we look at the Tiger H1, the Tiger H1 is battle rating 4 with a crew of 5. It has the same 88 mil cannon. It has 1 MG34, so you're losing out on 1. It has smoke grenades, you still have the same amount. It's listed as having the same maximum speed of 44.87, but I think there's a caveat here that we'll get into once we get a little bit further down the stats. Its armor for the hull is 102, 82, 82, 26, so the hull is exactly the same as the Tiger E. And then the turret armor, this is where things start to change. The front is 100, that's the same. The side is 82, that's the same. And the back is 82, and that's the same. But the roof goes from 80 to 26. Additionally, the engine power goes from 595 horsepower at 3000 RPM down to 553 horsepower at 3000 RPM, and they both weigh 57.3 tons, which is to say that the Tiger H1 is a BR4 Tiger that has a thinner roof and is missing 1 machine gun. So, is this a vehicle then that is worth you spending your hard-earned XP on? Well, it's not a vehicle that's required to progress. It's interesting for the future, but as of today, I don't think that the Tiger H1 is worth putting any amount of research or silver into. Now, don't get me wrong. It was fun for me to go and drive around in the Tiger E and then switch to the Tiger H1 and be able to play them back to back. And in-game, fundamentally, I did not notice a significant difference between the two of them. If I spawned the Tiger E and then I spawned the Tiger H1, it really just didn't feel like anything changed. Like, obviously, sometimes I could poke my commander out with the E, and I'd have a machine gun. But the amount of times that I actually stuck my commander's head out is fairly limited. Theoretically, you're more vulnerable to being shot from the air with the Tiger H1, but practically, I think it's less of a concern than something like War Thunder. In War Thunder, it's very common for planes to come straight down on top of you and use their guns to try to shoot through your roof. And depending on the vehicle, that can be very effective. Not necessarily at, like, one-shotting and killing the vehicle, but certainly at disabling them and inconveniencing them. You can still do that in Enlisted. I just don't see it happen nearly as often. And because of that, I think it's less of an issue. The other thing is you're only fighting the Americans right now, and most of what the Americans bring to bear doesn't really go through you. I'm not sure what the penetration is on 50 cals in Enlisted. If you aimed straight down at one of these, you might be able to go through the roof. It's just not something that I've really experienced a whole lot, so I'm not sure if they can do it. That being said, you are getting, theoretically, a weaker Tiger. The acceleration is going to be lower, you have less horsepower. It says the top speed's the same, so I'm sure if you drive in a straight line long enough, eventually you'll get there, but that's something to be aware of. I didn't really notice it that much, though. I mean, they're both pretty fat and sluggish, so it kind of is what it is. I was able to get them into the positions that I wanted to put them in, though, so I'm not really complaining. So, I think the comparison with the Tiger E versus the Tiger H1 actually isn't the Tiger E versus the Tiger H1. In my opinion, if you've got the Tiger E researched and you're looking for a tank to run alongside the Tiger E, you should just get the Tiger 2P, because that's literally the next thing in line. And then you should get the Tiger 2H, because it's better than the Tiger 2P. I think the comparison for the Tiger H1 is actually against the Panther G. And so, I did play a few matches with the Panther G. Statistically, the Panther G is a BR4 vehicle. It gets smoke grenades. It actually gets more of them than the Tiger at 12 versus the 6. It's got a 75, so it's got a smaller gun. It may not perform as well in all scenarios, but against the Americans, it's perfectly adequate. You get two 7.92 M34 machine guns. The top speed is 45.84, so it's pretty similar. The armor on the hull is 80, 50, 40, 18, so, you know, less armor, but it is what it is. The turret armor is 110, 45, 45, 15, and it has 510 horsepower at 2,500 RPM. And this is on the stock Panther G. So, looking at the Panther G compared to the Tiger H1, the Tiger H1 is probably the better vehicle there. It is marginally slower, and it does have more horsepower. It does weigh more. It does have one less machine gun. And the armor, depending on where you're looking at it, kind of fluctuates. The side armor is better on the Tiger, but the front armor on the turret is better on the Panther G. And also, the frontal hull armor is angled on the Panther G, so effectively, the frontal hull armor, even though it's only 80 mils, is probably better than the Tiger. So, they're kind of side grades to one another. Again, playing strictly against the Americans, I didn't really notice a significant difference between the two, and the Panther in general performs well against Russian tanks. At least in comparison to the short 88 that you find on the Tiger 1s. I think in a world where the matchmaker changes, and BR4 matchmakes differently than BR5 does, I think the Tiger H1 has much more potential, because there are far greater and far more important differences between the Tiger H1 and the Panther G. The extra dimension on the shell should mean that it's significantly more effective against infantry with its HE. As far as shooting at other tanks, I'm pretty sure that their pen is going to be similar to one another. I could probably hop on War Thunder and actually check to confirm this, but the Panthers have a longer barreled, higher velocity 75, and the Tigers have like a shorter barreled 88, which is still an effective anti-tank weapon, but it's not the same as the one that you find on the Tiger 2, for example. All of this is to say that if I got my ideal world, where all of the BRs match made differently than they do now, then I would actually run the Panther G and the Tiger H1 side by side, and I think it would be a fantastic lineup. I would also sometimes alternate between the two. I'd probably prefer the Tiger H1 though, over the Panther G, even though I think the Panther probably is more survivable from the front as long as you angle, because the frontal plate is going to be more effective than the Tiger H1. But like I said before, in the current state of Enlisted, as of today, at the end of March, I don't really see the point in even researching the Tiger H1, because the Tiger E is a BR5 vehicle that's better, and it's the vehicle that's not foldered. Like, it's the vehicle you have to take. And once you take the Tiger E, I can't think of any good reason to not research the Tiger 2. Because even if you're just looking at the Tiger 2P versus the Tiger H1, the Tiger 2P just has a better gun. It's got better hull armor. It's a little bit slower, but almost everything about that tank is better. And that opens up the ability to get the Tiger 2H. And the Tiger 2H is probably the best tank in the game right now. So, to me, the Tiger H1's a miss. So, let me know down below, have you all used the Tiger H1 yet? Do you like it? Was it worth grinding out for you? I could see for like a thematic lineup, or if you play in like the Milsim community, there's probably more of a use for it. But as far as the core game, I don't necessarily think that it's worthwhile. And being the only addition to the German tree this time around, it feels kind of bad. I kind of wish that they'd at least put something a little bit more, I don't know, practical in. I mean, it is a heavy tank. It performs fine when I'm playing against the Americans. A little bit less so when I'm playing against the Russians. But, I mean, fundamentally, there's no reason why you can't use it. I just don't think it's worth the investment if you have limited resources. So, as per usual, get out there, kick ass, take names, and win your games.